Good evening and welcome to the second installment of the BSO's Virtual Governing Members Lounge. Officially today streaming live to you now every Thursday at 5 o'clock. I'm Allison Burr-Livingston, the BSO's Vice President of Development, and it is a pleasure to welcome you to my home today with our new stay-at-home orders. For just a moment, we will truly go virtual and we'll welcome you to the Meyerhoff Symphony Hall. But I think that might drive us all a little crazy and is a little too virtual for a virtual lounge. So we might just turn it back to normal today. But really the main goal of the Virtual Governing Members Lounge is less to provide the ambience, right, and to provide the good content. So again, just like our donor lounges, both at the Meyerhoff and at Strathmore, every week our beloved place for developing connections and having great access to exclusive artist conversations. That's what we want to keep going during this interim time of social distancing. So each week, again, special guests are going to join me or another member of BSO staff in a thoughtful conversation. And not only can you hear their stories, perspectives, and insights, but officially, and as of today, with being live, you can ask your own questions answered. For anyone that is viewing us live on the BSO's YouTube page, you can go ahead and submit your question via the chat function. It's being monitored. For anyone viewing live on the BSO's offstage pages on our website, you can go ahead and submit your question by email to offstage, all one word, at bsomusic.org. Again, also being monitored. So go ahead and send those in as they come up, and we'll go ahead and get to them in the latter part of this conversation. So last week, I was excited to be joined by our own music director, Maren Alsop, and composer Anna Klein. And this week, I'm excited to be joined by two of the BSO's own amazing musicians, our percussionist and players committee chair, Brian Prechtl, and our violist and really virtual orchestra technician mastermind, Colin Sorgi. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Hi, thanks for having us.
And thank you for making everything work in virtual backgrounds and your own wonderful setting, polka dots, and whatever that beautiful setting behind you is, Brian. So tonight, we really are excited to have you both here because we want to talk about the latest exciting addition to our offstage pages and everything on social media, the virtual orchestra performance of the last movement of Gustav Mahlers' Third Symphony, which I think we released earlier this week. And I think by this point has over 150,000 views. So bravo officially to not only you both, but certainly to the entire orchestra. I think if I was actually interested to learn a little bit more about Mahler and this symphony in particular when we were preparing for this conversation. And I learned that I think this is the longest symphony ever written, coming in at a whopping 100 minutes, according to the Guinness Book of World Records. It is a symphony in 6 movements. The first movement is a half an hour long, which Mahler labeled Part 1. And then the other 5 movements are all collectively labeled Part 2. And their titles reflect the idea of the entire universe. The first Part 1 is titled Pan Awakens, Summer Marches In. And then Part 2 goes as follows: what the flowers in the meadow tell me, what the animals in the forest tell me, what humanity tells me, what the angels tell me, and what love tells me. The 4th movement includes an alto solo. The 5th movement includes choirs of women and children. And really for this video, for the virtual orchestra, the musicians settled in on the 6th and final movement. And I really wanted to kick it off, with a piece with so much content that's really describing a universe of message. How and why did you settle in on the last 5-6 minutes of that 6th movement?
Well, I think that for all of us that were rehearsing that week, it was a very emotional time for all of us. I mean, this was one of the marquee pieces of the entire season. And for many of us, we look forward to these Mahler symphonies. We kind of look forward through our entire career, and we sort of keep track of which ones we've played. So, when you get to some of the big ones, especially Mahler 3, which is kind of the granddaddy of all of them, really, it was very exciting. And we had an amazing week of music making on the stage. And really, right before the first concert, it was clear that we weren't going to be able to play. And we were crestfallen. And we felt like, wow, we really need to try to share a little bit of what we all got to share with all of you and with our public and our fans. So that was really the driving force behind choosing the piece. And in terms of, why the ending, I think that there's no doubt for any of you that are aficionados or fans of Mahler that it's a real journey. These pieces are epic. And in this one in particular, it really feels like you're going on this incredible journey and you finally arrive at the mountaintop. And that's really pretty much the last few minutes of the piece. And we just felt like it's the perfect little snippet to try to put together in this way. And you got to give Colin an incredible amount of credit for what he managed to do. Engineering feat.
Yeah, so we're gonna get into the engineering feat that tonight as well. But Colin, I don't know, do you want anything to add there? I mean, I think about the title of the movement of What Love Tells Me. And I think there's kind of a symbolic message of love too that might be meaningful at this point in time, that everyone's dealing with certain challenges in the world around us.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was definitely a consideration when we were talking about what we were going to put out into the world. I think if you've watched the video, you've listened to the music, you know that those last 5 or 7 minutes, whatever we included, are probably some of the most uplifting notes ever written. It kind of climaxes to this amazing end where you really can't do anything but cry, tears of joy, really. And so we felt like we had just played this, we had recorded it, we didn't get to share it with the world. And when the world needs some happiness right now, there was no other choice, honestly.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. We were talking a little bit before this, Brian, about how symphonies like Mahler symphonies and these tremendous works of momentous milestones, right? There's almost, it feels like a little bit of sampling, or it feels like a little bit of, you hear this in other music of different times. And even though the video and the virtual orchestra focused in on the last 5 minutes, we were actually kind of talking about different moments from the symphony, and we couldn't put everything into that virtual orchestra, or else Colin would still be working on it and would still be working on it for probably another year. But could we get into a little bit of that and share some of that commentary?
Yeah, I mean, the piece is, it seems to hit every part of your soul, and I didn't know, did you want me to talk a little bit about the last movement and the theme, or?
That, and I think even you were talking about, is it the way that it opens? And you were sharing a little bit at your piano, actually.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So the last movement actually bears a striking resemblance to an old tune that some of you might know. So the theme to the beginning of the last movement is. Which is very similar to a tune called I'll Be Seeing You. I'll be seeing you in all the old familiar places that this heart of mine embraces all day through. So it's sort of funny. People have noticed that before, but I can't stop thinking about that tune. Every time it would come around, I would turn to John Locke and start singing to him. I'll be seeing you. But it's an incredibly beautiful melody.
Well, look at that. We also got a little bit of your own singing voice in the person, Brian and John Locke experience tonight.
What goes on in the percussion section? Days of the percussion.
No, not anymore. Great. Well, I think, one of the things before we get into a little bit of the how, I think maybe we can talk a little bit more about this final movement that was featured. It really is a tremendously slow adagio that requires a tremendous amount of concentration and dedication. And I think that's been commented by many folks. Is that kind of an unusual way to end the piece? Did that, cause a lot of challenges when it came to actually creating everyone performing independently in assembly?
Well, I can take this one, Brian. It's unusual maybe in like the whole repertoire to end a symphony with an adagio. I think it's a special emotional aspect that composers would really lean towards, especially if it's heartbreak or love or anything like that. You see it kind of like in Tchaikovsky's Sixth Symphony, but usually it ends with a big bang, right? Mahler, on the other hand, I think a lot of times in a few of the symphonies actually ends with a slow movement, and he does it better than everyone else, in my opinion. So I shouldn't just present things as fact there. But it's really amazing how you get all of these amazing sounds throughout the symphony, and then he really hits you in the gut with the most beautiful music you've ever heard, in a slow, long, drawn out adagio. And there's something really special about that.
Yeah. And I think, didn't he originally was supposed to compose another movement to end, but then after he wrote this?
Yeah, there was supposed to be a seventh movement, and I forget what the title is now. It involved the mezzo soprano that was singing in one of the earlier movements in the Third Symphony. He didn't feel like it was right to end anything after this adagio because he just knew that this was the way it needed to end. So he actually took that seventh movement and made it the last movement of the Fourth Symphony, which unfortunately we're not going to get to play this season.
Maybe in future. We do not say never.
Yes.
So let's get into a little bit of the how. Clearly assembling the audio and the video part of this virtual orchestra is a remarkable feat of technology, as well as certainly of musicianship and commitment. Colin, would you be able to walk kind of the audience through a little bit of the process, kind of the rundown of how you approach this and how you're able to assemble it together, including talking about the technology that you used and how the musicians were able to also be able to follow a uniform kind of cadence and tempo and
Yeah, of course.
components.
So it actually kind of started sometime, like a week and a half ago, Brian, would you say?
About that.
Yao, our principal clarinet, emailed a couple of us who are kind of forming this online media task force in the orchestra to get a whole bunch of good content out to our fans and keep the music going. And Yao wrote to us and he said, "Hey guys, I think we really got to do one of these videos where the whole orchestra plays from their own homes, and it's really going to have an impact." And we all agreed. We kind of nailed down the logistics of how everyone would get their music to us, and we were still kind of, I wouldn't say arguing, but definitely trying to figure out what piece we were going to play, because Mahler was the natural choice for us because we had literally just finished rehearsing it. In my mind, knowing that I was going to be the one putting it all together, I was thinking, okay, well, that's, like 100 different parts to put together all at once. This is going to be, kind of complicated, but they convinced me. And obviously, I think it turned out really great. It was the right choice. But what we started with was a click track. And so for some of our audience members listening today, if you don't know exactly what a click track is, it's basically just a metronome that each musician had in their ear by themselves at home. And I'm going to play a little bit of that for you right now, just so you can see what it's like. And if you want to record some Mahler right now and send it to me, I'd be happy to include it in the next video. So this is the beginning of the video, and everyone just had to kind of sit in a meditative state and count their rests until they had their entrance. For some of us like Brian or the viola section, you had to sit there for a long time, right?
Yeah, long time. But I would imagine the melody, like, so like that, that long.
So usually when we're sitting in orchestra, our individual parts in our score that we have out on the stand has cues. If you have a long time before your next entrance, you have cues for, the trumpet's going to play now, or the first violin's going to play now. But when you're sitting by yourself, you don't have any of that. So in the click track, I tried to include important markers like rehearsal numbers when they're numbered, rehearsal 315 to 316, just saying this is this bar and you're going to come in 20 more measures. So basically all the musicians received that click track, and then they had to just play their part and record it. And we received everything, I think, last Monday. All of the videos started coming in, and the first thing I did was line everything up. So because the click track was there, I was able to kind of put everyone all in a line starting at the beginning, and that put everyone's sound together relatively at the same time, and the same with the videos. And so I kind of mushed all of the audio together and tried to make it sound somewhat like an orchestra was playing, not next to an iPhone microphone. And
is that what did everyone record it on an iPhone or their iPad? There wasn't any prescript for what type of technology they used to record?
Yeah, so actually everyone sort of needed two devices, one to play the click track and then one to record themselves on. And then there was no, limitation on what they used. I got a whole bunch of different devices and files. But it all came together. And then so Monday night, basically I started using every free moment I could find on my computer, trying to make this thing come together. And I basically layered all of the videos together. And when you think about the way a normal movie is made, it's kind of like one single video cut, in different scenes. However, my poor computer, took a lot of beating because it was 53 something videos all layered on top of each other, and towards the end it was I was really hoping that everything that my computer wouldn't die for sure.
Well, clearly it turned out wonderfully. And what technology did you use to assemble it?
So I use the Adobe Creative Suite apps, Premiere Pro for the video and Audition for the audio.
Great. Well, if everyone watching has not seen it yet, I clearly hope that everyone will, and I believe that we have the video embedded directly below this feed on the offstage pages. To kind of get into a little bit more of the how, we've got a couple questions coming in from viewers. So I wanted to let's see if I'll hammer in on one of them. Okay, this is a question from Jennifer. How many musicians participated in this effort? So how many individual files were you dealing with?
I believe the official number of musicians that participated was 53, but a handful of them recorded multiple parts just to make sure everything was covered.
Gotcha. Because you mentioned there's over 100 parts in the.
I'm not sure exactly on the number, but
to that effect.
Something huge, yeah.
Okay. And Colin, have you ever produced a virtual performance like this before, or was this your first foray?
I've never done anything like this before. I have a background in video and audio editing, but nothing like this, putting all these musicians together in one place.
Well, you went through with flying colors in your first attempt. Kind of a question for both of you. This is a question from Peter. How does it change the music making not to be together on stage? And how is it possible to play in tune together on the video?
Well, it's definitely challenging. And I think that was one of the things I was worried about in terms of intonation, because, so much of our intonation is situational in a way. We sort of tune to, the bottom of the chord and then sort of lay it on top. But luckily, everybody spent some time at the tuner. And I can't say that there weren't some problems to solve for Colin. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Colin?
Yeah. A lot of balancing went into this. Luckily, I had a bunch of different parts that I could pick from to bring out or to put in the background if there were some issues. Luckily, my colleagues are very talented, and I didn't have to deal with that too much.
I like it. And I actually didn't think about the tuning piece, so that's a good point. Was it surprising for members of the orchestra to hear the end result when they heard the Mahler for the first time? So what kind of response have you both been hearing from your colleagues and or your peers in other orchestras?
Well, I think it's been really strong. I mean, tears were the response that many people, I think, had when they heard it. And, you can see a lot of comments on social media. I think it was very powerful for us. I think it's been very powerful for a lot of people. It's that kind of music, though, it really does get you right in the heart. So I think it was really effective. I wanted to say one thing about a click track that's kind of interesting. A lot of people may think, what's that? But we actually use click tracks now and again. Like if you see us, especially for movies where we have to stay exactly with what's going on the screen, often maybe just the conductor will have a click track, but on very involved movies, like when we did West Side Story, we all had a click track, or at least those of us in the percussion section absolutely had to have a click track to make sure everything is in the right place. So there's a real unique set of skills that's involved in playing with a click. And, it's good that we have some experience, but it really helped us all line up in this situation for sure.
How did you create the click track for this, Colin? I don't think we covered that.
It was weird because we didn't like record it in rehearsal or anything, so I didn't have anything really to go off from us. So I found a recording that I respected online, and I kind of followed, the general beat pattern. In the video, it kind of sounds like everything's super steady, but Mahler is really detailed in ebb and flow of the music, so it can't ever just stay the same. Basically, I used the composing software Sibelius to put in some woodblock notes on the click track and line it up that way. But that's basically how I did it. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. We talked a little bit earlier, and the question came in from Marie, kind of talking about that relationship between Mahler and other, great symphonies with musicians. How many Mahler symphonies have you each played in your careers?
I think I've played them all. Several times on some of them. Actually, you know what? I don't think I've ever played Mahler 7. I think that's the only one I haven't. The one that's really rare is Mahler 8, which is called the Symphony of 1,000, because it really takes a lot of forces. But I happened to do that one early on in my career. I think 7 might be the only one that I haven't played. We play a lot, some of them a lot. Like we play 1 a lot. We play 5 a fair amount. But the others, you kind of wait for them to come around, and you get pretty excited when they do. At least in the percussion world, we get very excited when Mahler symphonies come around.
I think everybody gets excited.
How about you?
I think another question has come in. How many Mahler symphonies are there in total?
9.
Okay.
Well, there's an Adagio from the 10th symphony, but there are 9 complete Mahler symphonies. The Adagio from the 10th is often played by itself, but 9 complete symphonies.
Great. Colin, did you want to chime in on anything about your own experience with Mahler symphonies?
My dad always makes fun of me because my dad is a musician, and when I was growing up, I always used to say I hated Mahler. But every time, I just didn't understand. I was too young. But every time I get to a symphony, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this one. And then I play it, and then it's the greatest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Of course, that's how it usually goes. But for me, I'm still completing my Mahler cycle. I've played the 10th twice of all things, which is great because it's a great viola part. The ones I'm missing are 4, 5, and 7, and 8. So I'm scheduled to play 5 this summer. I hope that doesn't get canceled. And 4, I was really looking forward to, but I'm sure it'll come around soon enough.
I think it will. Okay, we've got a couple of other good questions coming in, and then I am conscious that we're going to be wrapping up in 5 minutes. So for everyone still watching, stick with us. But Jim has an excellent question. He said, Extending Peter's previous question about playing together while not actually being together, how difficult was it to perform? Was it as performers to react and play with so much empathy and nuance without hearing what you were contributing to?
I don't think that's challenging. I think that musicians, that's just, our bread and butter. And especially when you're playing Mahler, and especially as emotional of a place I think many of us are in right now, it was probably an incredible release for most of us to get to, sort of revisit this piece and pour our heart and soul into it a little bit.
Yeah, and I was lucky enough to get to see for an entire week all of my colleagues pour that joy and expression into it, and it was nice to see them all for that limited amount of time. But I think, yeah, that was my vantage point from all of this.
And because to confirm, Colin, you both played your viola part and you engineered.
I actually have to confess that I did not record my viola part. Partially
you did enough lift.
I was behind a computer, but I'm also nursing my shoulder a little bit. And actually, while we were rehearsing that week through the symphony, I was feeling a little bit nervous about making it all the way through. The strings have a lot of tremolo to do. It's like really active bowing, and my shoulder was killing me, and so I'm sad that I didn't get to perform it officially, but I was taking some time off.
Gotcha. So we talked a little bit before about our digital content task force, and just as there's great conversation happening among the musicians, there's also a digital content task force happening amongst the staff, and that we're all coming together and having really great holistic dialogue. I think we've got a task force meeting tomorrow.
Right.
Jack is asking, first of all, he wants to thank you and the entire orchestra for putting together this wonderful piece, kind of talking about anticipating putting out additional offerings and how often can we count on you to share more music with us. I'm going to chime in on one element there where what we're trying to aim towards, right, is thinking about a calendar where every day we can think of, just as Thursdays, and every Thursday at 5:00, we're going to have these virtual governing member lounge conversations. Be it every Tuesday is going to be a live stream, every Wednesday is going to be a from home, every Monday is going to be a podcast, something to that effect. And I think that that's something holistically that the BSO is working towards, and we're eager to get that up and running, and certainly work with all of the orchestra members on that wonderful content and sharing it on all of our channels and certainly on the offstage pages. But I don't know if you both want to kind of expand on any conversations currently in the works or dream projects when we think about a similar virtual orchestra or certainly a collaborative performance piece.
Yeah, I would love to say that our principal tuba player Aubrey Ford has really been leading the way in terms of getting the musicians all excited about developing online content. And I know there have been streams of videos coming in to our marketing team from the musicians, showing what they're up to at home and presenting things that they wanted to play and all things like that. And I'm really excited to mention tonight that the viola section, which happens, in my opinion, to be a pretty powerhouse section in our orchestra. Your violas are going to be coming to you, I think, every Wednesday at 1 p.m. for a lunchtime concert. We're going to work our way through the complete Bach suites for solo viola, which were originally for cello, but you're going to get to hear it in a new, not new, obviously, but a different angle from all your violists. We're going to spend our lunch hour with you guys. We're going to also pair some other music with it, and you're going to get to meet your violists. So I hope you enjoy that.
I like it. Well, you heard it here. Spoiler alert. First time, set the calendar for next Wednesday at 1. Well, I think unless you guys have anything else you want to add, I think we should start wrapping up. And I just want to thank you both for everything that you're doing to help keep the music going. I encourage everyone who's watching to make sure that they're continuing to keep engaged and connected with the BSO during these times. Please feel free to actually, if you have things that you'd like to hear and see, use that offstage@bsomusic.org email account. Send what you'd like to hear. What would you like to see programmed? And we're really eager to hear and see that feedback Just because we are not getting together in our beautiful concert halls right now does not mean that we are not still one family, and that we all need to be able to lean and rely on each other during these times. So with that, until next week and until next Wednesday at 1, maybe, when we're going to hear the first part of our new viola lunchtime fun. So
Thanks,
thank
Allison. Thanks
you,
for having
Colin.
us.
Very much.
Thanks to all of you that are here listening. It's great.
Thanks, everyone. Stay well, stay healthy, stay connected, and see you next time.
Bye-bye.